Hi everybody, I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show. I'm back from a 5-year-old's birthday party and then getting the crud from one of the kids from the birthday party probably. Haven't hung around little kids in a while, so they are sponges. That is for disease. So anyways, a little congested today, but happy to be back and happy to see all of you guys in the comments. William, thank you so much for the coffee. That's one way you can support us when we're feeling low, is caffeinate our bloodstreams with buying a coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks. That last film we watched was Caribbean Holiday, and it was a castle film, so it was it was distributed for home viewing, so you could buy that at a camera store or from their catalog. And you got to see, they had a variety of different travelogues over the years, including some that were in color, but that's pretty great. Wow, we have so many films today, so many films. And I'm trying to find since it's Ides of March, I'm trying to find a short film about Caesar. Looking in the database, there's a film about cesarean birth, but we're not going to watch that. So we're going to see what we can find. Maybe I'll have something for you for the Ides of March. Maybe not. We will see. Maybe I can find actual footage. What do you think about that? All right. So anyways, let's learn about communication satellites. Enjoy.
From far out in space, communication satellites enable us to transmit messages over great distances. These scenes were made during the first television broadcast ever relayed through space by a communication satellite. Why do we use satellites like these for long-distance communication? To find out, let's start with some simpler and more familiar ways of communicating. These are all ways of communicating, sending and receiving messages. They are useful over short distances. If we are to receive signals like these, they must be within our line of sight. Line of sight, or straight-line signals, are often used by sailors on ships. Blinker lights on one ship can be used to send signals in a straight line to other ships. But the Earth is round. As these two ships move apart, the curve of the Earth itself interferes with straight-line signals. The light cannot reach the other ship. How then can we send and receive signals or messages over distances beyond the curve of the Earth? Radio provides one way, but radio signals also travel in straight lines. These signals cannot pass through the Earth. However, a radio signal sent from one side of the Earth can be received on the other side. This is done by making use of a special part of the atmosphere high above the Earth. This part of the atmosphere is called the ionosphere. When a radio signal reaches the ionosphere, it is bounced or reflected back. Radio signals can be sent over great distances by bouncing them up and down between the surface of the Earth and the ionosphere. Under ideal conditions, radio signals can be bounced all the way from one side of the Earth to the other. Television is also a form of communication. Television signals, however, are not reflected by the ionosphere. Instead, they pass right through the ionosphere and are lost in space. To send television messages from coast to coast, a series of towers has been built across the country. These towers are about 20 or 30 miles from each other. We call these towers relay stations. Actually, there are nearly 100 towers across the United States. Messages can be relayed in straight lines from one to the other around the curve of the Earth. But relay stations like these would be difficult to build across oceans. One way to send television messages across an ocean would be to place some kind of mirror or reflector in the sky. If it were high enough, signals might then be aimed at it to be bounced or reflected back to receiving stations on the other side of the ocean around the curve of the Earth. The first such reflector was a huge, shiny plastic balloon called Echo. With a powerful rocket, Echo was launched into orbit around the Earth. These photographs, actually taken from a rocket, show how Echo was released and inflated in space. While circling the Earth as a satellite, Echo acts as a reflector to bounce back signals aimed at it from ground stations. It is called Echo because signals striking its shiny surface are bounced or echoed back toward receivers on the ground. Because the signals Echo reflects must travel such great distances, they lose much of their strength by the time they again reach the Earth. They are too weak to be used for regular television broadcasts. In order to get a stronger signal, satellites have been developed which carry electronic equipment. This equipment inside the satellite receives television signals from the Earth. It then strengthens or amplifies the signals and rebroadcasts these stronger signals back to Earth. The first satellite of this kind was called Telstar. But because television signals travel in straight lines, a satellite, like Echo or Telstar, can receive signals only when it rises above the curve of the Earth and is in line with a ground station. The messages the satellite can receive and send are interrupted when it disappears or sets behind the curve of the Earth. To avoid these interruptions, A series of satellites is needed. Each follows the other, so an approaching satellite appears before the previous satellite is out of range. The signal can be transferred from one satellite to the next without interruption. But is it possible to have continuous communication without using so many satellites? The height or altitude of a satellite determines the time it will take to make one complete orbit around the Earth. A low-altitude satellite will go around the Earth several times a day. A high-altitude satellite will go around fewer times a day. The higher a satellite is placed, the longer it will take for each orbit. A satellite placed a little more than 22,000 miles above the equator will take exactly 24 hours for each orbit. Since the Earth itself rotates once every 24 hours, a satellite in this position always stays above the same point on the Earth's surface. Such a satellite can receive and send back messages continuously over an area of about 1/3 the Earth's surface. The first such high-altitude satellite to be developed was called SYNCOM. Here, some of its delicate but high-powered equipment is made ready for installation. Rocketed into their correct orbits, 3 such satellites can provide continuous communication almost anywhere in the world. Because light, radio, and television signals travel in straight lines, the curve of the Earth interferes with long-distance communication. Radio signals can be reflected up and down between the ionosphere and the Earth's surface. But television signals pass through the ionosphere and are lost in space. Communication satellites, like ECHO, only reflect signals back to Earth. Other low-altitude satellites, like Telstar, contain electronic equipment to receive and strengthen signals before sending them back to Earth. A series of such satellites can give continuous communication. Or 3 high-altitude satellites can relay messages without interruption to almost any point on Earth. Satellites may soon be the principal means of communication from continent to continent here on Earth, and they may someday even act as relay stations to receive and send messages to bases on distant planets.
That's pretty great. I like looking at early satellite technology and kind of comparing it to what is going on nowadays in our satellites, and who's putting satellites up there and why they're putting them up there, and the fact that we now have a new military branch that is looking into those satellites and protecting them in some cases, and all that. It's fascinating. Anyway, so did some digging. It is Ides of March, so behind me I have telecine. I have a film set up which purports to have actual footage, news captured footage of the assassination of Julius Caesar. So here we go. We'll see if this is truly the case. Enjoy.
March 15th, 44 B.C. The assassination of Julius Caesar. You are there.
Walter Cronkite reporting, March 15th, 44 B.C. In Rome today, a political event of extraordinary significance is scheduled to take place. Here at the center of world economic and military power, there's a resolution before the Senate to make Julius Caesar king. This means that the governing body of the oldest living republic is about to vote itself out of existence and become a monarchy. For the past month, the republic has been living under a law of national emergency and suspension of all constitutional rights. Officially, under this regime, Caesar has held the office of dictator, which gives him the power of life and death without judicial review over any person. And Caesar, who has received every legitimate honor the republic can grant, awaits the offer of its dissolution, the imperial crown. In recent days, however, a strong movement has arisen within the Senate to head off this move toward a monarch. Just why the Senate sees fit to offer Caesar the crown is a question which has stirred controversy and sent rumors flying through the streets and into the outlying provinces and colonies. What the outcome will be depends on four factors: the influence of the army, which is known to be solidly behind Caesar, the courage of the individual senators for or against the move, the ambition of Caesar himself, and the attitude of the man in the street. There's no doubt Caesar has made a great many enemies in the Senate by his drastic reforms, which have encompassed everything from rumors flying through the streets and into... What the outcome will be depends on four factors: the influence of the army, which is known to be solidly behind Caesar, the courage of the individual senators for or against the move, the ambition of Caesar himself, and the attitude of the man in the street. There's no doubt Caesar has made a great many enemies in the Senate by his drastic reforms, which have encompassed everything from a reorganized judiciary, a program for retired legionaries, the building of libraries, various public works, to the overhauling of the calendar system itself. But it's also well known that the majority of the common people would follow Caesar anywhere. If there's one issue, though, which could turn them against this man who has so tremendously raised their standard of living, it certainly is the issue of Caesar's becoming king. We have word that the Senate is about to convene. We take you now to Capitoline Hill in Rome. All things are as they were then, except...
You are there.
It's 9 o'clock in the morning here in Rome, and for the first time in nearly 48 hours, the sun is just beginning to come out. To local soothsayers who keep an eye out for such developments, this appears as a good omen, and the general consensus is conditions are favorable for important decisions today. The senator now going before the altar for the ritual salutation is Gaius Cassius, for many years an important figure in the Roman political scene. He fought against Caesar in the recent civil war and commanded part of Pompey's fleet. When Pompey was killed, Cassius joined Caesar and was made one of his legates under Caesar's celebrated policy of clemency. This year, Caesar appointed him Praetor Peregrinus, but in spite of these favors, Cassius has violently spoken out against this move to make Caesar king. Let's try to get a word with Cassius before he goes into the lower floor of the Senate chamber. Come in, Todd Hunter.
This is Todd Hunter. Cassius is coming this way. Oh, Senator Cassius, may I ask you a few questions? Do you intend to block the motion today to make Caesar king?
No motion can be blocked in a free Senate.
Are you opposed to the move to make Julius Caesar king?
I'm a Roman. I'm a patrician. I'm a Republican. Naturally, I'm opposed to it.
Do you think the bill will be passed?
I do not.
Isn't it true that Caesar overwhelmingly controls the Senate?
Caesar is a very great man, an excellent general, and probably the most able statesman Rome has ever had. However, I do not believe that any Roman, regardless of where he stands politically, will vote himself into slavery and allow a human being to set himself up as a god.
You believe, then, Caesar wants to be king?
Caesar has said that he does not want to be king.
What do you think Caesar wants, Senator?
I think if the Senate dissolves the Republic, Caesar will accept the crown
How do you explain the fact that Caesar rejected the crown 3 times last week when Mark Antony offered it to him?
Caesar is a realist. The crown offered by Mark Antony is a symbol only. The crown offered by the Roman Senate is the Roman Empire. As I've said, Caesar is a very able statesman.
Thank you, Senator Cassius. There are a great many meetings going on here. There on the upper level is Senator Marcus Brutus. He's now being joined by Senator Cassius. This is the main opposition. From what I've been able to gather here, the question is whether Senator Cotta will offer the resolution to dissolve the Republic and make Caesar king. The resolution is on the agenda. The next question is whether Caesar will be here when this happens or await the decision in his palace. And the third question is whether the opposition, under Senator Cassius, will make a fight of it. This little group of senators in conference is headed by Caesar's main Senate floor whip, Senator Lucius Cotta, on the right. He is talking to General Decimus Brutus, one of Caesar's closest friends. There goes Decimus now.
Attention, please. Attention, please. This final session of the Senate, this 15th day of the 5th consulship of His Excellency Julius Caesar, will now come to order. Where is Caesar?
This is an unexpected development here. Apparently Caesar has sent word that, yes, they're removing Caesar's chair, the usual procedure whenever Caesar does not attend.
Is there any word of these? What do you think will happen if Caesar doesn't come? What do you think will happen if Caesar doesn't come?
A lot of activity seems to be going on in that corner, a corner incidentally composed of strange bedfellows indeed. The man now listening to Cassius is Senator Lucius Cotta, who, as I said before, was to make the controversial motion today.
Is there any word of these? I wish to speak. I should like to speak.
For what purpose does the senator wish to address the assembly?
I wish to make the motion that this session be temporarily recessed.
We will vote on the motion.
We have just learned from Dick Joy that Decimus is on his way to Caesar's palace. It looks like the resolution will not come to a vote today. If it doesn't, then the problem will not arise again for the next few years, since Caesar is scheduled to depart for the Persian campaign immediately. We switch you now to Caesar's palace. Come in, William Keneally.
This is William Keneally. We're in Caesar's private garden, and just behind the lattice, consulting with Mark Antony, is Caesar. This is Calpurnia, Caesar's 4th wife, a descendant of one of the most noble and ancient families of Rome. In fact, from the early kings who ruled before the Republic was born. Perhaps she can throw some light on the situation here. Pardon me, can you tell us why Caesar hasn't gone down to the Senate chamber today?
I asked him not to.
On a day like this?
Because it is a day like this. I feared for his life.
Oh, has a plot been discovered?
No. I had a dream. Last night I dreamt a pinnacle set up by the Senate in Caesar's honor collapsed. And when I awoke, a cold gust of wind blew open the doors of our house and chilled me. Death comes like a gust of wind, cold and suddenly. I'm not usually superstitious, but when my fears and my superstitions coincide, I listen to both.
And you asked him to remain?
I begged him to.
Then he won't go down to the Senate?
He will not.
Senator Decimus is here.
Decimus is here.
Hail Caesar. Are you ill?
Does my health worry you, Decimus?
If it keeps you from the Senate, it worries me. They removed your chair from the Senate floor.
I felt indisposed today.
Today, your indisposition is ill-timed, Caesar. They want to make you king this morning.
They can't make me king, Decimus. I am king. They can call me king.
They wish to call you king, then.
They can call me king another day. Who wants to make me king, Decimus?
Many say you do.
You believe that?
I know Caesar too well to believe that he would deliberately arouse the people of Rome against him for the vanity of wearing a crown. Nevertheless, the senators are worried about the reaction of the people to the rumor.
You're an old friend, Decimus. And in my will, as you know, you are designated as my second heir, after my nephew Octavius. What do you advise me to do?
Come to the Senate with me.
And if I do?
They will offer you the imperial crown.
And then?
Refuse it. Thank them for the great love they have for you and refuse it. Tell them what they have forgotten in admiring your great achievements for Rome. Tell them any crown is too much for the Roman people, and no crown great enough for Caesar.
I might blush when I say it. But my friends can say it for me. If anyone loves me enough to offer me a crown, let those who love me more refuse it for me.
I would be honored to refuse it for you.
Then be my delegate. And after the session is over, return and tell me what the Senate thought of Caesar's jealous love for Rome.
But Caesar, the Senate is waiting for you, whether you accept or refuse.
Let my friends speak for me.
But you should be there. They should speak for you while you are there.
They can speak for me when I'm not there.
If you're not there, Caesar, no one will believe me.
And if I am there, no one will believe me.
As your friend, Caesar, I tell you, you must be in the Senate today.
And what do my enemies say? What does Cassius say? That I should stay away?
I am the friend of Caesar, not of Cassius.
In that case, I'll come. But first, I wish to speak with Calpurnia. Calpurnia. Tell Antony to meet me at the Senate. What we suspected is true.
My dream was right.
Fear made you dream, and you dreamt you were afraid.
I dreamt you were in danger.
Indeed, I'm in danger. I'm in danger of becoming Emperor of Rome and all the civilized world. That's danger enough for one man.
I dreamt the pinnacle fell from our roof, and that can only mean that the head of this house will fall. It's dangerous to go down to the Senate, Caesar.
It is. Especially for those who sent Decimus to bring me down there. They intend to speak against me today. Each coward has given the other a little courage. Well, I tell you that those who get the courage to speak today will die tonight.
Caesar, don't go.
I want to go, Calpurnia.
It's a small ambition for Caesar to be king.
I had one ambition. To be first in Rome, and so I am. The rest is Roman destiny. For myself, I prefer Egypt and that soft kingdom there to wars and campaigns. But you, Calpurnia, are a descendant of kings, and tonight you shall be a queen. And I, whom all the world knows as Caesar, shall merely be another king.
Which is still in session.
Caesar's on his way here.
All right. Go ahead as planned.
Brutus backs out.
We can't allow any more vacillation on his part. There's no time for it. When Caesar arrives, Trebonius, engage Antony in conversation. Brutus is an honorable man. Brutus. Caesar is coming. He expects us to talk against him. He thinks no one has the courage to act but himself.
People love Caesar. Could not expect them to.
No one but Caesar wants Caesar to be king. The senators he bought won't vote for it, and the Roman mob will sway to our side. What honor is there in being a Roman? If Roman and Briton, Gaul, African, if colonial, slave, and Roman freeman all have the same absolute and eternal king. We must act now, before the idea in the air becomes a habit of the mind. We must act as Caesar would, as he will, in a moment, with one bold motion. The people love dramatics.
They may love Caesar more.
Only while he's alive.
I think he'll respect the vote of the Senate if we're united in the firm.
Only when he's dead. Brutus, are you with us? Here?
Here in the Senate building before the eyes of the Senate of Rome.
Here before the eyes of the world. Let them see how patriots act and tyrants die. The plans are set. We've no more time to vacillate. Brutus, I appeal to you. Today is the last day.
When he defeated Pompey in the Great Civil War, you and I were condemned to die. But Caesar granted us clemency.
I asked for no clemency.
You accepted it, and with it the high post of government as I did.
And they were our right. Not bribed to win our votes to make him king. If Caesar is king, Brutus, what is the Senate? In a monarchy, every man is either slave or courtier. This Senate and its senators are Rome. The Republic is Rome, and liberty is Rome. Without all these things, what is Brutus? What's Cassius? Is Caesar a friend of the Republic?
He is not, I know that.
Then how can he be your friend? Be with us, Brutus, and be numbered like your ancestors among the saviors of the Republic. Act as Caesar would if he were a Roman patriot. Would he stand aside, or would he strike?
I'm with you.
And Rome is free. Stay close by Caesar's side. When the petitions are read, watch Simba. He will give the signal.
Caesar has just entered the Senate building. The man with Caesar is Mark Antony. These men are trying to bring to Caesar's attention their various personal petitions. Usually this is done once Caesar has been seated.
I said I'd take this later inside at the proper time.
Brutus. I'm sorry to see you here, Brutus.
I can say the same to Caesar.
But I was sent for. And when they send for Caesar, then Caesar must come. You seem to have sad thoughts.
No, I was thinking how fortunate those great heroes are who die in battle before they can degrade their victories.
I love Rome too much to die before I consolidate her empire and my victories.
If you were only a lover of the Republic.
So I am. But this Republic is now only a conspiracy of senators waiting for each new election. Can the senators lead the Roman people? They cannot.
Be their example, then.
I have another example in mind, Brutus. And I want you to listen carefully. I've spent my life reducing most of the world to mere colonies of Rome. So here the empire stands. Can this pack of jackals govern this empire? It cannot. Each year, new wars break out. And the conquered people, smelling a chance at liberty, break out in rebellion. I know I've spent my life reconquering what quarreling senators have lost. Understand me.
You want to be king.
Not I. But Rome needs a king to unify the empire. Do you have a suggestion?
I suggest that civil war, anarchy, rule, and struggle are better than tyranny. That liberty is better than bondage, and death better than slavery.
Take my advice, Brutus. Do not speak out against me in the Senate. Be my friend, and leave freedom of speech to my enemies.
Caesar now goes before the altar to make his invocation for guidance. All eyes are on him, and once again, as earlier today, the awful tension rises here. Very large issues are at stake. I have reports that a detachment of horsemen from General Lepidus' army are gathered near the Temple of Jupiter. Now Caesar has completed the ritual. He is entering the chamber. Come in, Todd Hunter.
This is Todd Hunter inside the Senate chamber. The order of business, of course, is interrupted when Caesar comes in. In just a moment, though, after Caesar hears the individual pleas, the session will again begin. Caesar's chair is being placed. They're lining up now to offer their requests for special favors. That's Senator Simba first, followed by Casca, then Decimus.
You, Decimus? What brings you here in line with the others? Well?
They come in my behalf, Caesar, to beg you to repeal the order which banished my brother in exile.
Your brother was guilty, and for that reason he was banished. Would you prefer me to have him killed?
Is this the Caesar known for his great clemency?
I have nothing more to say to you, Simba. Who's next?
Perhaps I have more to say to you.
What? Simba, have you taken him?
Kill him now! Kill the tyrant! Kill him now! Kill the tyrant for freedom and liberty!
You too, Brutus!
Rouse the city to our side.
I posted the gladiators near the holy places.
All right, we'll meet at your house, Decimus, all armed and with the troops we have.
Where are the senators? Why did they run?
Well, what now, Brutus? The wolves will quarrel over Rome, and who will defend her?
Senators of Rome.
They are the wolves. You have your liberty. Enjoy it.
I did what I had to do and what I would do again.
He spared your life once.
My life for this day that I might save Rome from his tyranny.
Of the day, Rome trembled with shock and terror. All the power and vitality of Caesar wiped out, gone. The impact was more than the mind could grasp. A stunned populace gathered in doorways and on street corners to repeat the news in hushed voices. Rumor was everywhere, a dreadful anticipation of the unknown future. And among the people there was a slowly rising anger. The conspirators, finding an excited crowd in the square, tried to win them with catchwords of liberty and the republic. But the dazed crowd had no homage for phrases so long used to cover greed and expediency. Oratory could not pierce beyond the one staggering truth. Caesar was dead. The assassins, sensing an ugly mood just beneath the apathy, were now afraid and took refuge in the buildings on Capitoline Hill and surrounded themselves with gladiators. Caesar was dead, but the plotters and assassins had not seen beyond his death and had not planned for that necessity as well. And for 15 years there was chaos and civil war in Rome. One by one, Antony sought out and confronted the conspirators. Some died by his hand, others, like Cassius and Brutus, whom he opposed with armed forces, suicide rather than face defeat at his hands. As Caesar had predicted, the empire was too great for a republic without an all-powerful guiding hand. And under Caesar's heir, it became a monarchy which lasted for 400 years. But in those centuries, there was no successor who could have stood as Caesar's peer. And as a result, the empire slowly deteriorated until the fall of Rome in 476 AD. What sort of a day was it? A day like all days, filled with those events that alter and illuminate our time. And you were there.
Recreation was in 1955. And thanks Norma for all the costumes. So that was a show that was shown on CBS back in the 50s and 60s. And then they kind of had a resurgence in the early 70s. And then McGraw-Hill got the distribution rights for this and repackaged it and put it on 16mm film and sent it to schools because it has some educational value to it. There's no Ides of March reference I didn't catch. I think that is in the Julius Caesar play that Shakespeare wrote. So, anyways, that was pretty great. Big fan. A lot of fun. Let's learn about life in Morocco while we're kind of down near the Mediterranean. Let's skip on over to Morocco. Enjoy.
Morocco is an interesting land located on the northwest corner of that vast continent, Africa. Here, the nature of man is much the same as any place else, but his customs and habits set him apart. Most Moroccans are either Arabs or Berbers and are of Mohammedan religious faith. Strict Mohammedan women still wear veils to hide their faces according to religious custom. The costume of the men is a loose-fitting jalaba. A turban is worn on the head for both warmth and cleanliness. In such cities as Casablanca, Mazagan, and Fez, names well known to many American soldiers of World War II, life follows much the same pattern today as it did centuries ago. The water boy still fills his container at the public fountain. He'll sell you water by the jarful or by the cupful, if you're a thirsty traveler, directly from the goatskin container he carries on his shoulder. Working with the hands, slowly and patiently, seems to come naturally to Moroccans who know very little of the mechanical ways of the world. Stone is used to build houses. Slowly, yes, but houses of lasting value. Each and every stone is shaped as a separate unit. No single one is exactly like its neighbor. When held in place with mortar, these stone walls will last for centuries, just like this old fort that was built the same way over 500 years ago. The remains of another civilization can be seen in Morocco, for this ancient land was once a part of the great Roman Empire. 2,000 years have elapsed since the Romans were here, yet the signs of that ancient culture are still to be seen. Much of Morocco is bordered on the east by the towering Atlas Mountains. Below the mountains there are broad, gently rolling valleys. Here the Moroccan farmer works his fields and tends his flocks. The soil is good but rocky in many areas, and yields more to the skill and endurance of the farmer and his animals than to the quality of his equipment. The more animals a farmer owns, the more work he can accomplish in a day. Crops are often irrigated with water from a hand-dug well. A patient donkey furnishes the power to lift the water out of the well, a can full at a time. Given water and good soil, crops flourish under the strong Moroccan sun. Most of the wheat farmers use sickles to harvest their grain. It means weeks of back-breaking labor, but harvest time is a happy time for the Moroccan farmer. A poor harvest can mean hunger. A good harvest means there will not only be plenty of food, but surplus crops for selling and trading to obtain the other necessities of life. At the threshing ground, the stalks of wheat are trampled by horses. This loosens and removes the precious grains of wheat by a method of threshing that's been used in Morocco for centuries. It's a slow process, but it works. When the horses have finished, the trampled material is tossed into the air. The wind carries away the lighter chaff, leaving eventually only the good wheat grains in a neat pile below. Sheep are raised in all parts of Morocco. The shepherd's son rather enjoys helping tend the flock. The wool and sheepskins are taken to a watering place for washing. This has always been women's work, and the Moroccan women do their job well. After washing, most of the moisture is removed by beating. Wool is a most important commodity, for clothing is all handmade in Morocco. Thread and yarn is made by women who have learned this skillful art as children. Some of the yarn is colorfully dyed and hung out to dry. Moroccans often build the machines that they're unable to buy. Here, an old bicycle wheel is used to help wind thread onto a bobbin. The bobbin, in turn, is used to feed a hand-operated loom and turn out strong, colorful wool cloth. Clay pots and dishes for household use are all handmade by other skillful workers. After baking in a kiln, the pots can be sold as they are or beautifully decorated before being sent to market. Metal is scarce in Morocco. The blacksmith uses old bits of scrap iron to make nails and hinges and a great variety of hardware items. All the products of the farmer and the craftsman are found in the public market. If you look long enough and bargain hard enough, you can buy all the necessities of life in Morocco. The last tiny bits of foreign matter are removed from the grain before this important farm product is offered for sale. There's homemade candy to buy. The shepherd brings his sheep to market, sometimes to trade for other things, and sometimes to sell for cash. The spice merchant has seasonings for every taste, and if his hot pepper gives you a stomachache, the druggist will be happy to sell you a remedy. The camel market is always an active trading center, for camels are used for transportation, as work animals on the farm, and as food. Camel hides are used as leather. The camel never seems concerned with his fate, whatever it may be. In Moroccan town and countryside today, life still proceeds at much the same pace as it did during biblical times. How long it will continue at this pace in a modern world is uncertain. Perhaps widespread changes will occur, for here and there, one does see signs of a more modern life. Not all farmers are content to till the soil with a crude plow when a machine will do the job better and faster. Just ask this young Moroccan farmer. He'll tell you. Not all farmers are satisfied to harvest their crops with a sickle when there's a better way to do it. In certain cities, there are signs of modernization, a Morocco of tomorrow. For man's desires here are the same as his desires anywhere else in the world. Changes begin first in the minds of these good people who, like people anywhere, hope to improve the living standard in their land. But in spite of the changes that may someday alter the face of Morocco, there will always be reminders of its colorful past, like the Berber tribesmen from the distant Atlas Mountains who hold their fantasia, or parade in religious celebration, today, just as they have for centuries past.
William S. Burroughs' Morocco is very different. It's not for the squeamish. Yeah, so I've got one more film set up on the telecine. I'm going to squeeze it in. We're going to run a little late today, but it's Ides of March. What do you expect? So enjoy.
Something we can't see makes our modern world possible. Electric power. Big power for industry. Small power for homes. Electricity is a friend. We're not too much afraid of it around the house. But lightning and high voltage seem dangerous. Look out! The current to light a 100-watt bulb could kill 20 people. The electric energy to toast a slice of bread could kill 200 people. An electric iron, 300 people. The current that must pass before a 20-amp circuit breaker trips could kill 10 busloads of people. Every year in North America, over 1,000 people are electrocuted by accident with tools, radios, appliances no one was afraid of. And according to U.S. Public Health Service estimates, 30,000 people are injured each year in accidents with wall sockets and extension cords alone. This is not to mention the hundreds of thousands of fires in homes, plants, and schools that are caused by line-to-ground faults in electrical systems. Have you ever felt a tingle when you switched on a lamp? Here's why you're still alive. Electricity wants to go to ground. It will take the best route available. It would rather have a wire, but a human body will do if there's no choice. So your body becomes part of the circuit. The lamp switch that tingles and is leaking current because of a defect hasn't hurt you, because you're insulated from the ground. Some substances are better insulation than others. Dry shoes and a thick carpet do a good job. In this case, they could save your life. But suppose you were grounded. The garbage disposer switch is defective and tingles. You have your hand on the water faucet and touch the switch. Through the pipe, you are connected to ground. Electricity wants to go to ground. You are now part of the circuit. It is current, measured in milliamperes, that shocks and kills. Here, volunteers demonstrate some effects of small but dangerous current. The subjects have all been given medical examinations and are ready for the test. The current in the conductor this man holds is measured in thousands of amperes, or milliamps. At between 9 and 16 milliamps, a man reaches his limit of ability to release the conductor. This is his let-go current. Not being able to let go, she freezes to the conductor. In an actual situation, this acts to trap the victim. She is getting about enough current to light a pencil flashlight bulb. She suffers painful muscular spasms. At this point, we will have to cut off the current. When current of the order of 50 to 100 milliamps flows through the victim's chest, ventricular fibrillation occurs. The heart is overstimulated. Its rhythmic pumping action is disrupted. Then, heart action ceases, and death follows soon after. Again, this is current in the neighborhood of only 50 1/1000ths of 1 amp. But how often does such a dangerous situation occur? In many electrical devices, there is leakage of current. Insulation becomes worn or broken. Tools develop a hot case. Appliances and radios, a hot frame. Contact these while partially insulated, and all you get is a tingle. But if you touch a grounded metal object, or stand on a wet floor, or grass in bare feet, the tingle becomes a lethal shock. Many appliances and tools come with the third prong for use in 3-hole grounded outlets. But older homes have no such outlets. So the third prong is often broken off. Or an adapter is purchased, and the wires intended to ground the tool or fixture to a metal outlet are ignored. Add to this, many outlets are improperly wired, and the third hole leads nowhere. Certainly not to safety from line-to-ground faults. And many so-called grounded systems have undetected breaks, worn wires, or other defects that are developed and cannot be depended upon for safety. This leaves the average person at home, on the farm, and in many types of industry exposed to danger from leaking electrical currents. Swimming pools with current-leaking light fixtures create electrical fields in the water and cause many deaths by paralysis of the human breathing mechanism. This is called anoxia. Hot deck fittings, boxes, and pump motors also contribute to electrocutions. Of course, the ordinary circuit breaker offers no protection to people from line to ground faults. In many cases, a life was at stake. What could be done to detect such faults instantly and cut off the power within milliseconds? The answer was found by Charles F. Dalziel, professor of engineering at the University of California. He discovered and patented a device that is known as the GFI, or Ground Fault Circuit Interrupter. It can eliminate ground fault dangers. This is a ground fault detecting mechanism. It consists of a differential current transformer with a special magnetic core and a solid-state network which activates a current interrupter. The transformer totalizes the current flowing through identical primary windings. As long as the current is normal, the output from the transformer to the solid-state network is 0. But if for some reason current, that is, leakage current, is diverted to ground on the load side of the transformer, a resultant flux will be produced in the core, inducing a voltage in the secondary winding. This voltage in the secondary winding actuates the solid-state network, which results in tripping the current interrupter. So to all intents and purposes, the instant the conductor and ground are touched, the power is cut off, and the subject receives a harmless shock. Ground fault protection is now available in a new form, the GFI duplex receptacle. Compatible with any fuse or circuit breaker overcurrent equipment, this device easily replaces any standard outlet. It can be installed to protect its own 2 outlets only, indoors and outdoors, with a rainproof cover. Or when installed as the first outlet from the fuse box or breaker panel, the GFI receptacle will provide ground fault protection to all of the outlets on that circuit. So now, there is no reason whatsoever why anyone, anywhere, need fear line-to-ground shocks. Because the GFI, which detects death-dealing currents and responds by cutting them off within milliseconds, is now available to everyone who needs protection. This is anyone who uses electric power, the fantastic force that makes possible most of the wonders of our modern world.
I can check that gear in a minute, so don't... Get down from there! Now! Hey! Turn it over!
What if it bumped that control by accident? You'd be mincemeat by now. What have I told you? You don't work on equipment when the engine's running.
Well, I told him not to touch anything. All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking? You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here. Shake hands with danger.
Shake hands with danger. Meet a man you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety. Now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. I was young and feisty, never did things by the book. Just let me get my toolbox and I'll take myself a look. I climbed up on a dozier with my mechanic's pride. Said, you can keep it running, friend, while I poke around inside. Shake hands with danger, meet a guy you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety, now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. Although I learned a lesson, I forgot it soon enough. The nicks and burns and scratches showed the young ones I was tough. Till another morning I was grinding on some steel. My other hand got careless and fed my skin into the wheel. Shake hands with danger, step right up and say hello. Grinding wheels and metal are what made me Three-Fingered Joe. I've seen mechanics burning, and I've seen them take a fall just to save themselves a minute. I've seen them lose it all. I've watched them courting trouble, seen them take a chance and lose. They get careless for a moment and spend a lifetime with the blues. Shake hands with danger. I used to know. Compared to them, I'm lucky to be just Three-Fingered Joe.
For some reason, I really wanted to see that GFI film. It's been a while since I've seen it. But then, of course, followed up with Shake Hands with Danger. Something I didn't mention with the Life in Morocco film, that was a Pat Dowling's film, but it was directed by Thomas Stanton. Thomas Stanton then later formed Stanton Films, of which we showed a film last week, Sleepyheads Revised. And like I said, you know, some of these directors cut their teeth working for one company and then went and started their own company. And that was an example of that. I also like, maybe I'm blurring all the comments together, but people that had little Caesar's pizza for Pi Day and then maybe had it for leftovers today, killing off the Caesars that they had for Ides of March. I'm feeling better. I'm still a little but I'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up, hit the notification bell, hit like, hit all those things, subscribe. You can buy us coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks. But happy to be back and happy to see you guys again. And we'll be back again tomorrow. Everybody take care.